Hello, neighbors. Um, Hi. It's very early tonight. Today, this afternoon. It's 4:30. I apologize for the late notice. Things have been kind of hectic today, and I have an event that I have to go to this evening. So, thank you for your patience and understanding, and we'll go through this. And I know some folks may not be able to join right now because they're probably still at work, but this will be available for them. I actually have an event around the field tonight that I'm going to, so that's why I'm hopping on here a little earlier than normal, but I just wanted to go over, my regular agenda coverage, and then if you guys have questions, you can reach out to me anytime. So first item of business, we will be getting our monthly financial update from our CFO, Ms. Pickle. Item number 2, and all the rest of the items, like I've talked about before, these are all going to end up being on our consent agenda, so we'll just vote on those in one block as long as we're able to get through discussion on them in the work session. So item number 2 is just an agenda item, so it doesn't require a vote. It's more just a notification to the public that our city manager, Martin Granum, will be the Red Bank representative to the Hamilton County 911 Funding Committee. So apparently we've had this agreement in place with Hamilton County 911 for several years, as well as a few other municipalities. I think Eastridge, Collegedale, Soddy Daisy, maybe. Don't quote me on that. But in any case, we all pay extra into the 911 service. And apparently in the original agreement, it did say that there shall be a funding committee set up with representatives, and that was never done. And so that's finally happening. Very good news. And Martin is super plugged into all of that, so he's going to be our representative on that committee. Item number 3, recognizing Fire Prevention Week, which is going to be the week of October 5th through October 11th. So our Deputy Fire Chief will be going over that resolution and recognizing that Fire Prevention Week and the steps that they're taking to help educate the public on fire prevention. Item number 4 is a purchase of 4 solar-powered, cloud-based digital school zone speed limit lighting system for Point Christian Academy. So this is related to a school zone study that we had to do on Ashland Terrace, around where Red Bank Baptist has opened up a private Christian school for elementary aged children, and they were supposed to notify us before they did that so that we could do the school zone study ahead of the school opening and have all of that set up. But we're getting there now, and the installation of this speed limit lighting system and signage is going to be just a touch under $22,000. So we have to pay for that. That's in the state statute. Even though we didn't set up the school zone, we have to do that for all the school zones in our city limits. And those were budgeted funds. Item number 5 is ratify emergency traffic signal repair. So there was a traffic light that failed at Signal Mountain Road, and so we called in our contractor to come in and fix it on an emergency basis, and while they were fixing it, they realized that the sensor in the camera piece that reads whether or not there's vehicles there and changes the signals accordingly was no longer working. And so my understanding is they went ahead and replaced it, which it needed to be replaced, but they didn't tell us and they just billed us for it. So, but it needed to be replaced. It's an emergency repair. It cost a little bit under $23,000, which is yikes, guys. You would think it wouldn't, but that's accurate. So, yeah, fixing that sensor and then the traffic light, $23,000. So anyway, that's working now, so that's good. Item number 6, authorize application for the Hamilton County Leaning into Communities grant for an amount not to exceed $250,000. This is a grant that the county is offering to all local municipalities. They're doing it in waves. We missed the first grant cycle because, quite honestly, they didn't give very much time. It was in June, like during budget season when everybody's trying to finish their budgets. So, but we applied during this round, and it is a 50-50 match. So it's $250,000 up to, and then we would match up to $250,000 toward that, and that would come from our general fund. And the proposal is listed in the agenda work session packet, and it's got information about all that, but the proposal is for development of that parcel that is between the City Hall building and the police department building. So that parcel that has been vacant, we've grown some like wildflowers there just to have something there, but the proposal is to develop a public basketball court system there that potentially, hopefully, could have some kind of walking trail around it, some benches, because it does back up to Stringer's Branch there, so that, you know, if you wanted to go and you have a little sibling or something and they wanted to play basketball, but then your mom just wants to walk around or whatever, then there's different options there. And so we don't really have any recreation opportunities in that part of the city. So that was one of the reasons it was proposed by our Parks and Rec manager. The other reason was because basketball courts were like one of our top requests when we did our Parks and Rec community engagement piece for our master plan. So this will be like checking a whole bunch of boxes. And it's away from a neighborhood because it's got, you know, it's on Dayton Boulevard, and then it's got like the tree buffer and the branch buffer, and then it's got, I'm trying to think if they're, sorry, I may be misspeaking. In any case, there's some buffering there. So it won't be loud. Like, I know there's some folks who hear the pickleballers all night long. Hopefully we won't be hearing basketballers all night long, but it's something that we need in our community and people are asking for and we don't have. So that is what that grant application is for. The county commission has already voted on it one time in their work session, but they're going to be formally voting on it, I believe, this Wednesday. And Jeffrey, our Parks and Rec manager, and Martin, our city manager, are going to be in attendance at that meeting. Item number 7 is approve and adopt the paid parental leave policy. So I'm very excited about this. We actually did adopt this, and this was amended into our personnel policy in July, but there had to be a formal policy written out for this. We couldn't just say, well, we're offering paid parental leave without having the whole policy behind it and how employees apply for it, qualify for it, the criteria and all of that. So that's what we're actually voting on tomorrow, and that's just to amend that original resolution. So it is, in case you're interested, it is 2 weeks paid parental leave, and that also applies for folks who may like be taking in kids from foster care. It may be folks who, you know, are taking on legal guardianship of like a family member's children. So it doesn't just have to be like the birth of a new child in your own family or an adoption of a baby in your own family. So very excited about that because, you know, we have almost 100 paid full-time employees. Well, almost. We have like 85 or so full-time employees, and we have never offered paid parental leave before. And we do have somebody who is using it right now, so I'm sure that they were grateful for that benefit. Item number 8 is approval for property disposals. So these are like equipment. This is equipment that is surplus equipment that is no longer needed. Specifically, our firefighter department has some firefighter equipment and some old firefighter hoses that they're going to dispose of. And then our police department has some vehicles that are either seizures from like drug arrests or their own vehicles that are past service life. So they usually work through an agency that like auctions those off, and then we get, some profits off of that. Item number 9, authorization to participate in the Tennessee Highway Safety Office Community Traffic Safety Grant in a non-matching amount of up to $79,990.90. We apply for this every year and have since I've been in office, and it is non-matching, so we get about $80,000 to pay our officers overtime, and it has been specifically used for overtime for distracted driving. So we've got a couple of officers that usually end up, getting some overtime to set up and pull people over for distracted driving. So holding their phones, which is illegal in Tennessee, in case you didn't know that, hands-free Tennessee, or, being on your phone, messing with your phone, even if it's not in your hand while you're driving, watching a television show on your phone while you're driving, which I have actually seen in Red Bank, like stopped at a stoplight. So that was fun. But anyway, so we have officers who will set up particularly for that reason. And a lot of times, if it's like a first time that you're being pulled over for something like that, they'll do some education with you. But sometimes, just depending on the context, the situation, if you've got kids in the car, if they're like, you're not wearing your seatbelt, there's other things going on, they may have to cite you. But that's what that grant funding is used for, is for overtime for that purpose. And then the final item of business is we have a beer board meeting for M&J Liquor to make an application for a beer license and certificate of compliance for their new location at 309 Morrison Springs Road. So I'm sure you guys have seen the building that's been constructed over there by the Hardys. It's the M&J Liquor that is over by Northside Neighborhood House in Plaza North by the Big Caffeinated Drive-In. They are just moving. It's not a new liquor store. There's still only 3 liquor stores in Red Bank, and there's a quota for that somehow in our zoning. So there can never be more than 3 liquor stores. So anytime I see somebody say, "Oh, great, another liquor store," well, it's just not true. There's only 3. We can only have 3. So we're maxed out. But what's really cool is they're investing in our community, and they bought property here, and they're investing a lot of money building a new building to stay here. So that's good news. So we'll be hearing from them and determining, whether or not to issue that beer license and certificate of compliance, and that's it. There's always a chance for public comments during those beer board meetings, just like any other meeting. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can come in for that. Otherwise, that's all we got. We do have 2 items of old business, unfinished business, that we'll be voting on. We are disposing of 2 city-owned parcels on Goodson Avenue, or voting to dispose of those. And then we're voting to amend a resolution that we just voted on at our last meeting to initiate the new land conversion process. That includes a $10,000 application fee to TDEC, and we did budget for that, and that was all, in order. However, apparently the wording in our resolution it recognized that fee, but it didn't necessarily approve of the expenditure. So this is just amending that resolution to, amend that language to make it clear that we are approving the actual expenditure of that $10,000 application fee. Okay, and that's it. All right, friends. Well, if you guys have any questions, you know where to find me. Otherwise, I'll see you at 5 tomorrow at our work session, 6 at our regular meeting. Enjoy the weather. Good night.